Yes, if you've been subscribed to the channel for long enough, you would know I have already reviewed Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, both of which got copyright claimed and I just deleted them, okay? Now, we're gonna redo those reviews today, starting with Man of Steel, because we have roughly 8 months until James Gunn's Superman comes out, and in that time, I would like to review every single DCEU movie leading up to the inevitable reboot. I was a fan of DC when it started. I am a big fan of Man of Steel. I think this movie is highly super duper underrated. I am kind of shocked that it's not talked about more in a positive way. I think the casting all around the board is pretty excellent. I think the way it looks is different from your typical Hollywood superhero blockbuster. It's a little more handheld, a little more care taken into each shot, each frame. I like that. I think the score is incredible. I think the story, whilst somewhat paint by numbers, is enhanced by everything going on around it. I think the experience of Man of Steel is better than the movie itself, but that's a movie. It's the whole package. The music, the way it looks, the writing, the acting, the way you feel. Feelings play such a big part in your reception to a movie. I remember the first time I watched this movie back in 2013. I remember watching it the second time. This is the first movie I ever went to the cinema to see again. I have a soft spot for it, and I recognize its flaws. I do. I'm not stupid. I understand what it does well, what it doesn't do so well, and we'll get into it. But as far as Man of Steel goes as a whole, I think it's brilliant. I have a goodwill meter. I've spoken about it before. When it comes to movies and the way I review things, if a movie does so much good, my goodwill meter builds up, which means I'm more forgiving. I can look past the minor flaws. It'll bring the meter down, but as long as we're above that positive threshold, I'm loving the movie. Whereas you get bad movies, and if it's just doing shit that annoys me constantly, I've got no goodwill, which means I'm going to tear it apart. Man of Steel gives me so much. My goodwill meter is like at the peak almost. Man of Steel is also the first movie, well, the movie that made me start working out. I'm not the biggest guy, I'm not the strongest guy, I'm not in the best shape because I happen to be a big fan of chocolate thick shakes and Big Macs. I can't help myself. But seeing Henry Cavill come out of that water at the start of that movie was an experience. That is a moment in my theater going experience I will always remember because I can vividly hear everybody's audible reaction in the cinema. When he comes out of the ocean at the start of that movie, you could hear it. Oh, like, wow. Like, people were like, look at this dude. Because Henry Cavill, I mean, sort of an unknown, had done things, but then explodes. And it's like, who is this man? And ever since then, I wanted to work out. I watched all his workout videos. I had an old barbell in my bedroom. I had a kettlebell, and I just did whatever I could back in the day because I would have been 15. Yeah, 15. This movie, like, not only do I love it as a movie, as much as it's done for me in life, I love it. I listen to Hans Zimmer's soundtrack at the gym all the time. It is perfection. I respect the shit out of the decision not to use John Williams' score. We'll get into the score later. Let's wrap up this introduction of sorts. I love the movie, and now we're going to go into each aspect of filmmaking, and I'm going to tell you what I love or not love about it. First thing we're going to do is start with the director. Zack Snyder has become a very divisive figure in the realm of film talk, film speak, the industry. I think he had a lot of positive traits when he was earlier into his career. Now, I think Zack Snyder has pretty much revealed himself to be a hack. Do not get me started on those Rebel Moon movies. Do not get me started on Army of the Dead. We'll get into Zack Snyder in another video, I'm sure of it. But early on in his career, he was bold with his choices. And what he does, better than just about every director I've ever seen, is he blends his style with CGI seamlessly. Now, unlike someone like Denis Villeneuve, the Dune director, Sicario, Prisoners, who uses CGI probably the best out of any director, where his CGI, look at Arrival, always looks real, always looks blended in with the environment. What Zack Snyder does with CGI is doesn't hide the fact that it's CGI, but it always feels tangible. The whole fight sequence at the end between Zod and Superman, you know it's CGI. It doesn't look photorealistic, but it still feels impactful because of the way Zack Snyder is able to blend it with his vision. He is a dude with vision. He is a bit stupid sometimes. Left unchecked, Zack Snyder is not a good director, but put in line, given a script that he didn't write, with a few studio execs talking over him, controlling him, he does put out some decent stuff. Acting, let's talk about the acting. You've got Henry Cavill, who I have a feeling is going to go down in history as the most unlucky actor of all time. Missing out on James Bond probably twice, missing out on the opportunity to really play Superman, the Witcher situation. I just think Henry Cavill either is the most unlucky dude in the industry or he's the most real. And that doesn't fly in Hollywood. You can't be real. You gotta play the game. You gotta wear pearl necklaces and women's clothing if you wanna get somewhere. And I don't think Henry Cavill wants to do that. So he's been shunned a little bit. I do think his Superman had so much potential. He looks like Superman. He's built like Superman. I don't think he was truly utilized to his full extent, and that's why I say he missed out on the role of Superman. Because we never truly got to see it. Batman vs Superman, he had like 20 lines, they didn't use him. Justice League, the mustache situation. They didn't use him, it was overshadowed by this controversy with the mustache. In this movie, he's reserved and quiet, but you can tell there's a Superman there. And when you get that final smile of him at the very end of this movie, welcome to the planet, and he gives you a smile. I mean, that's Superman to me. That's warmth, but we never explored that, which really upsets me. I think Henry Cavill would have been perfect casting. Is perfect casting. He's great in this movie. I think he's great. You gotta understand, you have to bring the physical with the look. And he's Superman. Look at the man. I think Amy Adams leaves me wanting with Lois Lane. I don't love Amy Adams. I like her a lot, but I don't love her. And I don't love her in this role. I never have. It kind of feels like they just wanted Amy Adams because she didn't dye her hair darker or anything. And I mean, whatever. I don't love her. Lois Lane in this whole DC universe is just a plot device, really. She doesn't serve a lot of purpose and she's not very likable. But Amy Adams does bring a caliber of acting to this movie. So too to Perry White does Morpheus himself. Lawrence Fishburne, he's great. He brings that gravity, you know, that gravitas, as they say. He is a good choice for Perry White. Kevin Costner is a stroke of genius, in my opinion, as Pa Kent, Jonathan Kent. I really do think he brings, I mean, I keep saying it, gravitas, but a real sense of old world acting, he heightens the movie with his presence because Kevin Costner, you know, he's known for the 3-hour westerns, epics. Sort of went away for a long time and then he had a resurgence. Man of Steel was like one of the first before that resurgence. It's inspired casting. But the one thing I will say about it, I don't like his death scene. I like it for how it makes you feel. See, that's what Zack Snyder did well with this movie. He makes you feel things when the music's elevated and the visuals are incredibly epic. I mean, you can't help but there's a human response. In saying that, his death scene, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We'll go back to save the dog. Why didn't Superman save him? That's a flaw of the movie. I recognize that. I don't like it. Michael Shannon as Zod, I almost forgot. Michael Shannon has never had a misstep in his career, never given a bad performance. Michael Shannon is Zod, and you will bend before him. Russell Crowe's the man. He owns an Australian NRL team, National Rugby League team. He's let himself go, but Russell Crowe, he's the man. He does what he does.
So chill, baby cake.
I just think all around the board, the acting is great and the casting is inspired. Henry Cavill, a relative newcomer, is surrounded by great actors to build him up, to give the movie legitimacy, and I think it all works fantastically. We could talk about the writing. There's not a lot I have to say. This is David S. Goyer, who wrote the initial screenplay for like Batman Begins. I think he did the Blade movies. He's in that superhero world, and I think what he does is effective. I miss the days of movies being effective and efficient. This movie throws you in. Here you go. Action scene. Let's learn a little bit about Clark. Action scene. All right, the biggest stakes have arrived. Action scene. Now the end game. Movie's over. I miss efficient movies that didn't waste your time. David S. Goyer is not pretending to be some fabulous writer that he knows he's not. He's not trying to reach above his station. This is a Superman movie with a different tone, a different outlook. That's what he wrote. There's not really any memorable lines. There's a couple.
A good death is its own reward.
I will find him!
There's some silly things that happen.
I just think he's kind of hot.
Why is his suit on this random shit? Blah, blah, blah. You could go on. There are things that don't make sense. But as I said, I respect the fact that this script, more than anything, is efficient. The filmmaking. Let's talk about filmmaking because this is sort of in line with talking about Zack Snyder and not, because it's more about everything else. Everything else. So the look of the movie is probably my favorite thing. I love this sort of handheld look. They had a one camera setup for this movie. Now, unlike lots of blockbuster movies that use multiple cameras all at once, one camera, which means every shot was decided upon, picked, and chosen specifically. I respect that. They could have gone an alternate route. They could have, but they didn't. Man of Steel doesn't look like other superhero movies. It's got an artistic edge to it, which I hate to use the word artistic. It sounds pretentious. But some of the shots, you know, of him walking in the snow, of the cape flapping, the shots up in the sky, the twirling camera, it's all labored over, and you can tell. This is a vision. People criticize the shit out of this movie. I always will stand by the opinion that Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman are ahead of their time. If Man of Steel dropped today, it would be loved. I guarantee it. What else goes along with filmmaking? Well, there's the art design. Krypton. The way Krypton looks seems totally unique to me. I'm not a comic book reader. I just know the original Superman movie with Marlon Brando and Christopher Reeve, what Krypton looked like there. Here, completely different. Its own technology, its own look, its own creatures. Do you think that's a decision that just gets made in a day when you're working on a film of this size? No, this would have taken time. They cared. The first 20 minutes of this movie take place on Krypton, and it feels like a living, breathing alien world. You gotta respect the effort that went into art design, and that goes back to the suit. The suit. This is my favorite Superman suit. I think it's everyone's. This is an incredible suit. It almost looks like an organic skin that's just pitch perfect over Henry Cavill. The way it moves, the slight angles of it that direct your eyes from the shoulders to the thin waist, to the bulking legs, the boots, the muted colors, I think work. And yeah, we could talk about color grading too. This movie is dull looking. I admit that. I don't love the way it looks on a color level. If the color was turned up, the brightness, some of the saturation turned up, yeah, things might look even better. It would be really nice to see this Superman suit with more color. However, Zack Snyder had a vision, Warner Brothers trusted him until they didn't, and this is what we got. And what we got isn't like Superman I've ever seen before, and I loved it for it. And the music, this is my favorite thing to talk about. I will always stand behind the fact that if you do not have an iconic film score for your movie, Yeah, your movie might be good, but it will never reach iconic masterpiece status. It never will. Never. You cannot have a masterpiece without a good score. Hans Zimmer, the GOAT, did the score here. I love this soundtrack. The alien vibes it gives, the epic percussion at the end, the theme, the melancholic, uplifting notes of the main theme. It's everything I want in a Superman theme. And it fits this Superman perfectly. You got to understand, they weren't just saying, well, we're going to make a Superman movie and make some money. We're going to make a Superman movie and tell a story. And tell the story of this different Superman. So the suit, the muted colors, the soundtrack, all goes into telling that story. This more down on his luck Superman. I appreciate what they're trying to do. They're not retreading old ground. I think the best piece of music in this movie is Flight, which is when Henry Cavill Superman takes his first flight in the snowy mountains. I think it's brilliant. I listen to it at the gym all the time. This is one of those soundtracks that I think is underrated too. When it comes to movie soundtracks, people don't really talk about this one that much. And I gotta say, I have a feeling James Gunn, they're going to revert to Christopher Reeve's Superman soundtrack. I don't like that. I think that was Christopher Reeve's soundtrack. That's his version of Superman. I think for every iteration of a character, every reboot should have its own soundtrack. Otherwise, it's like we're playing into the nostalgia for the money grab to me. If you want something to stand on its own and you truly believe in it, then everything you do will be totally original. That's my opinion. Now let's talk about criticisms this movie often gets. It's too dark. It's not too dark. Give me a break. We're adults. People can watch this. I was 15 when I watched it. I know that's not really a kid, but it's not too dark. They say it's too dark visually. It's not a super Teletubby colorful paintwork, but it's not too dark. You can see everything that's going on. It's got its own look. It's shot on film. People also criticize, and this is a spoiler, the fact that Superman kills Zod. I love this choice. Let's also not forget that Superman killed Zod in Superman 2 back in the day. Just because here it's a far more violent death, people get upset. I think it's a good thing. There was no other way to stop Zod in this movie. Zod was an unstoppable force. I think it set the tone for this DC universe, or it did at the start, that this is not always going to go the way you think. That our heroes will have moral questions to have. Should I kill? Should I not? I like that. I like the fact that there's a debate about it means what they set out to do, which was to make the audience think, happened. I think that's the review, everyone. I don't want to go in depth for all these DC movies because, it'll take me 5 years to do that and we don't have the time. We need to optimize this channel and make things more efficient. I love Man of Steel. I think it's brilliant. It is super underrated. Almost every aspect of the movie I love. It is an epic thrill ride from start to finish that I adore and I watch all the time. I think Man of Steel is the best movie in Zack Snyder's DCEU, as it was called. And I would be remiss if I didn't just say to finish, I think the fight scene between Zod and Superman is probably one of the most epic fight scenes put to screen. The way the music rises, the way they fight in this desolate city, going to space. It's a perfect action scene. The stakes, they slowly raise. Zod learns to use the powers he can use. He takes off his armor. Things build. The music builds into the emotional climax. It's one of my favorite endings to a movie ever. Call me a bro, I don't care. I like movies that make me feel something. And this movie, while it's not an emotionally sad feeling, I'm thrilled. I'm excited, I'm pumped up. I want to go lift weights after this movie. I want to go make a movie after this. I want to go learn how to compose an epic soundtrack after this movie. This movie's got it all for me. What do you think of Man of Steel? Do you agree or do you disagree? I think more than 10 years on now, we can look back and start to appreciate movies for what they were trying to do in a time they weren't necessarily, or they shouldn't necessarily have been made for. Man of Steel, as I said, super underrated if it come out today, I think it would be one of the highest regarded superhero movies of recent times. Because you look at the stuff we're getting compared to what Man of Steel is, there's a notable difference. It's ahead of its time. And I'll leave you with that, everybody. I've had enough talking. I'm going to go look at pictures of Henry Cavill on the internet. Goodbye.